Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to a different interview series. And we were all talking about this earlier. This is the perfect week to do this, to have three mamas. We're missing one uh, that all have 6 to 7 kids on Mother's Day week. So we're leading into Mother's Day. So we're supporting the super mamas here. I'm so excited that this is happening. I'm already super grateful for all of you guys. But today we're just going to share some insights on self-care practices. We're going to share some insights on food prep, which was kind of what stemmed this whole interview. And then prioritizing partnership and what that actually looks like, and still having a love life or lack of love life in what you do. So welcome, mamas.
Hey, thank you.
Hey. This is really fun. So, okay, I want you each to go through and introduce yourself and then tell them all the things, like how many kids, all that, like kind of what we talked about earlier. Nicole, you go first.
Okay. My name's Nicole Schul. I live in Columbus, Indiana. I have 6 kids, 5 girls, ranging from 18, 15, 12, 10, 9, and then I have a little boy who is 6 years old. And I'm a single mom, recently divorced, officially a year and a half ago. So yeah.
Yep, and the other mom that is not on here was similar boat. So Libby, we are giving you virtual love right now. I know you've got some family stuff, but she's a single mom of 7, and I believe she homeschooled too. So Libby, we love you. We miss you. Anyway, Jocelyn, all you?
I am a stay-at-home mom of 7 kids, ranging from 13 to 1, and I homeschool them. And I have been married for almost 17 years.
Awesome. And then last but not least, Jessica.
Hey. First of all, Meg, I just wanted to say thank you so much for bringing us together tonight.
Absolutely.
And I'm probably going to ask a million times, am I breaking up? So I'm apologizing now. But thank you so much for bringing us together, because us mamas need to stick together. We have so much to offer each other. And like these simplest tips can be huge game changers. Right? Like every day I am using right now, and I am impacted by things and ideas that other mamas and encouragement that other mamas have given me. And like when they shared those things with me, they probably didn't think it was very profound. Right. But like to me, it was huge. And so it's like those small, simple things that can end up giving us the most leverage. So I just want to thank you. I'm like a natural born encourager. So I love this opportunity. And thank you so much for getting us together to do this. So yeah, I'm Jessica Ridenauer. I am a 47-year-old wife and homeschooling mama of 6. I have 4 boys and 2 girls, ages 8 to 22. So my oldest daughter has been married for 3 years this month. And I've been married to my husband, Bob, for 23 years. He is 16 years older than me. He is 63 years old. So we have a lot of fun dynamics going on in our family.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about me. So,
well, I love how everybody's so different, but yet you have the commonality of a tribe of kids. Like that's the thing. So you guys are all going to be able to connect with so much of that. And then I get to learn from you all, which is so exciting. And for my mom, who is going to be listening to this, she was the type of mom that wanted to have 7 kids. And my dad said, absolutely not. You get 3. So I said today she could vicariously live through you guys. Okay. So one of the big things that stemmed all of this was food prep. So recently I've been doing more food prep videos, sharing things that I do for us and for our family, and things that I've done that really help extend that even when I was single, and things that I hope to do with my family and continue to do now. So I want to know your strategies for each of you for food prep. Like, what does that look like? How do you grocery shop? Do you budget? How do you make things work? I love learning about this stuff. So, Nicole, you go first.
Okay. So now in my life, being a single mom, and just recently I was working about 150 hours every 2 weeks. Um, it was different than when I was a stay-at-home mom. It was a lot of like frozen meals, quick. I recently got a pressure cooker that saved my life because I could be home all day and still forget to take the meat out of the freezer. So it was literally the game changer for me recently. I started throwing stuff in there when I get home while I'm getting the kids all their stuff going after our day, and it makes my life 50% easier. I used to budget when I was a stay-at-home mom. I did budget and I meal prepped. I made homemade granola bars and uh, fruit snacks, and it was amazing and I loved it. And I'm trying to get back into that as I transition into this year out of divorce and kind of reclaiming myself in my own home again. But up until that point, all honesty, my kids are going to be watching this later and I don't need them in the background going, you did not make that dinner. So it has really been spur of the moment, take it as I can get it, other than I add a salad into almost every single dinner and I add bread into almost every single dinner to kind of spread it out and add a little extra to the meal that I popped in the oven for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my meal prep right now.
I love it. One more question. So do you typically grocery store shop at the same time? Or not the same time, the same store? Or do you kind of hop around? Do you have strategy there? Or is it kind of right now just doing whatever you can?
It really does. The store that has the least amount of cars in the parking lot gets my business. I will jump around and see where I'm at and how busy they are, and that's the store. So it's not even about budgeting anymore. It's who can get me in and out the fastest.
Is Aldi one of those places ever? Are you an Aldi lover?
Actually, yes. If you go early in the mornings, you can get in and out real quick.
We make it a competition. Like if we're grocery store shopping together, like we can get in and out in 15 minutes.
Wow. And do you normally not shop at Aldi's then?
No, I that's where I get
in 15 minutes.
Well, that's when we have each other to go in there. Normally I do it by myself, but I'm still pretty fast. I feel like I'm like, but I don't also have a tribe. You guys have a tribe, but I have Derek and he's like 2 people and Joy. So. Okay, Jocelyn, it's your turn.
So I kind of crazy meal plan. I normally set up a meal plan of like 60 dinners, and then I try to buy like all of the meat and everything that has to be frozen or canned or whatever. And then I try to grocery shop like one time a month. I almost always have to go back once a week for produce.
Mm-hmm.
But that we don't eat a whole lot of like bread. My kids eat pasta and rice, but Jeff and I don't. So a lot of our meal is it's produce. So, and that doesn't always necessarily last for forever. So there's some things I figured out that have, but so, and then I just kind of work off of that meal plan for 2 months. And then like the last couple weeks of that, then I start my next meal plan. There are some things on there that are repeated several times. Pizza and tacos, or Mexican is repeated a lot. I try to do a lot of freezer prep. So when I come home within the first couple days that I've gone shopping, I try to prep my meat and then freeze it. So yeah. And then lunches are kind of breakfast and lunch. I kind of do a little bit easier because we homeschool and I've got to be like, I got to get it done. So like my husband was like, is an hour of making pancakes really worth it? $2.50, and it's going to cost you to buy the pre-made ones. But it like kills me because I'm like, but there's preservatives and all of that. But like there's just some things that I'm learning to let go. And that's kind of one of them, because there are other things that I'd really rather make. homemade, and my kids can pop the pancakes in the toaster or the microwave, and that's easy with them. As far as stores go, where I go shopping, primarily Aldi and Costco.
Mm-hmm.
Aldi always takes me way longer, and I think it's just because I have to bag everything.
Yeah, the part takes a while.
Yeah. Costco, I had like down to a science. I can take Fisher would go into therapy, and he would be in therapy for 2 hours. And so, or 1 hour. And so I would, Costco was like 2 miles away. So I'd go to Costco while he was in therapy. And I got it down to the point that we were in and out of Costco in 20 minutes with a massively full cart. So that's my like major, like, woohoo, I did that. Grocery shopping. Because I don't know anybody that can get in and out of Costco in 20 minutes with a massive cart and 6 kids.
And when it's busy, no.
You know what I used to be able to do is I could give directions in the store to like my ex-husband of it's in the 3rd row on the 2nd shelf if you go 5 feet because I would need that certain item and I know the store so well that I could direct somebody with a walking note to the item.
Jessica, do you want to try to talk, or is it breaking out enough you can't talk? You want to try?
You guys all looking at me right now.
Do you want to try to go and see?
So it is breaking up a lot. So I'm just getting like I'm figuring out what you're saying through.
Yeah, that's happening to me, like big chunks of time.
Well, Jessica, you go ahead and try to talk about some of your grocery stuff because I've still been able to hear you. I don't know.
Okay.
So
it could just be on my end, but then I'm like, I don't know what you guys are saying all of the way. So as long as you guys can hear me. So like for us right now, we I don't think I mentioned it when we were talking here live. I know I talked about it before we got started. We owned a health food store. My husband and I owned a health food store together for 18 years, 2 different locations, but for 18 years total. And we've been married for 23. So I'm going to math wrong. I was going to say the last 6 years, 7 years. This is not good homeschooling advertising. No, it's real life. But but we were so anyway, we sold that back. We sold our store after 18 years. So we do now. There was a point where I was home because of all of the kids. So like when we had our health food store in the beginning, when we were newlyweds, it was just me and my husband, and we opened up our health food store together. Got pregnant. I graduated from nursing school, like all in the same like short few months. We had a lot going on. It's like that's kind of how the rest of our life has gone. But so like we've had the whole gamut of newlyweds, 1 baby, 2, 3. By the 3rd kid, I was working full time at our health food store with him. And so we were raising our kids up in the health food store. Absolutely love that. Super fun. Great memories for them. But 3 kids was just a little too much to be bringing into the store all the time. So I moved more to paperwork, bookkeeping, coming in after hours or days where my mom could watch the kids and I would come in and work. So I phased out of there, even though I was active and working. So like the dynamics of our food prepping and shopping, has just run all over the place. And now we're in a phase where we don't have the store. We're home together, both of us. We sold our store, and we do health and wellness through an online platform. So we don't have a retail place or anything to have to, work out of or worry anymore. And so we are at home, and we have switched to him doing most of the shopping and the cooking and things like that. So that's been just the last few years. So that is new for us. So it's like my brain has so many different ideas. Like, okay, I want to tell, young moms this and moms of 3 kids this and, moms of, 6 and all the little ones. So, I've done so many different things. And some of the things that I've heard you guys talk about. But like right now, my husband has taken over most of that. So his grocery shopping is a little random. We do love Aldi. Mm-hmm. We do love Aldi. But and like where we have shopped has totally changed over the years. But like when I was in my prime of like master planning and menu planning and meal planning and all of that, like it would be like one really big shopping day, right? Because shopping was kids in tow. So like I said, like that changes. Like now that I've got a married kid and 2 older boys who they're not with me. So I've got 3 little kids that aren't really little anymore. So it like changes things. But taking everybody shopping I actually loved it. Like I loved having my shopping cart with all my kids around. Like that was like such a huge part of my identity for so long that like when my daughter got married 3 years ago, that was really hard. Like we could do a show and talk on that, like the first one leaving the nest and just how all of that happened. How I know, right? But anyway, so okay, a tip. I do have lots of tips and obviously lots of thoughts running through my brain. But ideally, and right now we have a budget. We do a monthly grocery budget. So we have a monthly grocery budget, our amount that we're going to spend for the month. And ideally, we would go a really big shopping trip once, right? Because of all of the kids. And it's just also, I have found that I end up saving more money that way. When I buy more, I know it sounds crazy, right? You think you're just going and buying all this food, this bill is high, but when you go in smaller trips, you end up spending more. So unless you're really good, you have your meal plan and your budget like that, you can, am I breaking up?
No, actually you're really clear right now.
Like it'd probably be better if I was breaking up. So like so having a monthly amount that we go by, one big shopping trip, and then filling in the gaps like throughout the month is ideal. But right now, since my husband can just go run and get the groceries by himself, it's a little more random. But my experiences, that I've had over the last 20 years help me be able to be more random, if that makes sense, because we do have a better control on our budget. And we've made so many meals all of these years. We don't have to think about things like we used to. So.
Well, I think you said something that more people need to hear, that the less times you go to the grocery store, the less you're going to spend. I don't care how many kids that you have, the less times that you're going to be distracted by your cravings or, like when you go to the grocery store and you're hungry, like we should make this and this and this, and you come in for one ingredient. Like we don't have to do that. How do you guys, so as far as like budgeting goes, do you guys do like the envelope method with cash? Do you put it on your card? Do you how do you guys, what's your method? Because we've been recently doing something like this, and I think it's fun to hear people's methods.
So again, as a single mom, I'm winging it a lot right now. I get the things I need as I need. I know a lot of the discounted meals per se that I can get, so I know where to kind of rein in my grocery budget. But there's a lot of things as a single mom that you move things around and you put things off and then you catch back up and then you put them off, and it's kind of a game of catch up every month, of trying to get, this is more important, this comes up. And so for me now, it's really just winging it. Previously, when it was me in that home environment, I had a very strict budget. I had a PowerPoint where we entered everything every single day. And then the total would show us coming out of the bank before the bank would show us that account. I think at one point I had a family of 6 children on a $450 grocery budget in California, which was amazing. And we were more naturally focused. I did almost everything was home cooked and natural, and very little process. And I learned a lot of tricks about keeping my lettuce going for 2 weeks, how to store different vegetables and things so that things don't lose quality if I can't get to them as fast. And that really has helped me in this single mom role that I'm in. And so right now, most everything is winging it.
But I love that you're expressing that, because I know that we had a conversation about that over the weekend, and how you said you were living a life where literally everything was so structured that it was like
Right.
extreme. And then now you've got to experience some freedom. So you're like, and now you're like, okay, I need to bring it back in. Like, let me find these new boundaries. Let me create my own systems. Let me figure out what works and doesn't work using your back.
Right. And then it's the kids, obviously, too. The kids, they're used to a certain amount of structure. And I'm like, we can all relax and breathe. And then they're learning their new normal on the things that they're allowed to eat now, where before I was like, no, you can't have that. That's processed. That has too much sugar. That has too much this. I'm like, what's one day? What's one movie? What's one this now? And I am trying to get back into my natural lifestyle now that things have settled. And I really thought hard about how to approach this topic, because I didn't want to come in as this mom of 6 kids that is just floundering. But the reality is, I am a single mom to 6 kids, and it's a year and a half out from being, almost 2 years out from being in a very financially stable home and a very structured lifestyle where I'm with them, and I homeschooled them for 7 years. So it's kind of, I want people to understand that if you're going through that process of divorce and you're transitioning, it can get hard, and there's things that in life you really have to just let go out the window because it's not worth it. So do I need to tackle the big issues, and then I can come back to the food issues and say, okay, we've gotten off track. Okay, I've gotten off track with my budget, but we got by. We got a house. We got these things. And now we can readdress all the things that we knew before and all the things we did to save us time and money and energy. And I think a big family functions at such an amazing capacity with that, because we do have to have things aligned in order for all of the personalities to flow. And they still don't flow, but they flow better than they would if there wasn't that consistency there. So I wanted it to be honest for everybody that's transitioning into this situation. Even with 3 kids, with 2 kids, it's going to be an adjustment, and it's not a month adjustment. So nothing to be afraid of, but that is the reality.
But I also think, like, remember you were saying the other day how, like, people will give you the look like, oh, you're a single mom of 6 kids. You're like, no, I'm happy. Like, I'm really happy. Like, it may be a mess, but I'm happy.
Right. But you know what? And I know the ladies have probably gotten it before too. As a single mom, I get that look of like, oh, poor mom. And then when I was a married mom with 6 kids, I would get people to go, well, how much money does your husband make? What does he do for a living? And I'm like, well, I mean, he hustles on the side and he sells illegal items and he does really well. And there's so many times I've wanted to say that, because I'm like, they judge me based on the fact, you know, I mean, I had this little old lady ask me one time, well, what does your husband do? And I said, well, he's a computer engineer. And she goes, oh, okay, you're good. You're fine. And I go, well, thank you. Thank you so much. I wasn't aware until you said that. And so it's one way or the other. I'm going to get that look of, that's so hard. You're doing too much, or why would you do that, to, I feel so sorry you're struggling by yourself. And it's, unless you're there, unless you see your kids and those personalities and that dynamics, it's not something I think people understand, or they will understand.
Well, I think that's why conversations like these are amazing, because it gives people a different perspective. And some of the things that maybe they never even realized they were saying that was actually unintentionally harming people.
Right.
And then, there's also the intentional harm too. Some people don't want to see you happy, or like managing this many kids and they can hardly manage one, you know, so,
Right.
and nothing against that either. Like everybody's got to learn their stuff. So, but I think being open and honest about all this stuff is going to open up conversations, maybe with you guys, with other people. And I love it. Okay, Jocelyn, your turn.
I don't know if I remember the right question.
Well, actually, no. Actually, we didn't run out on a question. That's why I was like, wait, I don't remember what. Okay, we're gonna switch.
We were asking about the money and budgeting.
Oh, yeah, budgeting.
Envelope systems.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good job, Jessica.
I like trying. Yeah, I get lost again.
Well, I was gonna say, like Nicole, like we've had different. My baby's crying, just so you know. I may have to switch places really quick.
You want to have
because Mama
Jessica go
can't
real
handle
fast?
it. What?
You want Jessica to go real fast?
Yeah, Jess, will you go?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll meet you.
I gotta
just
go
for a
get my
second.
baby.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love that.
Yes. This is, I mean, if I have learned anything at 47, it is life is not perfect. It's messy. And I love the realness and the rawness of it. It took me into my 40s to really start to stop trying to be perfect. Even, you know, I didn't even realize that I was trying to be perfect. And be in control of so many things, and really never really thought that I cared as much of what other people thought of me. But I really, really did. And, you know, sometimes people will look at us and say, oh, you have 6 kids or you homeschool. I could never do that. And I think I usually say, like, if they say I could never do that, I would just, you know, I have 1 kid. That's a lot to handle. And I just encourage them because, yeah, 1 kid is a lot to handle. And what we do with 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, we fill in the gaps. Like we just naturally fill in the gaps with busyness and things to do. So a parent of 1 child can be very busy, and they're not. I think a lot of times they say that they feel less, maybe like they aren't. They feel maybe you're looking down on them or something, or they're making excuses or something for their own insecurities or whatever that may be. And I just want to encourage them when they say those kind of things. I mean, like, there were times when I would say, "Oh, yes, you could do it," or kind of come off like it's easy. And now I'm like, no, it's hard. I'm failing and fumbling all over the place. And life's just that way with 1 kid, 6 kids. Now I've never had more than 6.
Right.
Go ahead, Nicole.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's what I always tell everybody, especially new moms. They think like, oh, you've got to be judging me. You've got all these kids. And I'm like, it is the same overwhelmed. It is when you have a crying baby, you have a crying baby. And you have the experience to deal with that 1 baby, and it's overwhelming. And then you get the experience to deal with 2 babies, and it is a natural thing. People always say, how do you do it? And I'm like, there's not an option button. Like, I don't get to get up and go, I'm out of this one today, and everybody just takes care of themselves. I mean, it doesn't work that way. And so you overcome and accomplish what has to be done, and it starts to become natural. But it's literally the same for all of us. I mean, we start out with 2 kids going, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then we get to the 3rd kid, I definitely can't do this.
Right.
And so it's important that they know that there's we're all in the same circle of overwhelmed and joy. It's the same.
Yeah. And I remember when I was looking at my firstborn in her bassinet, just crying, and I'm trying to do some bills, and I'm just like, how do people do this with more than 1 kid? Like, I can't even do 1 kid. And then I'm like talking to myself and comforting myself. And I'm like, it's okay. It's like long division. Like, you have to first learn to add and then subtract, and then long division. You're okay.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the same thing, and it's new. And
right.
And certain things, my son was in theater, and when they were learning their dances and their acting and their songs together, the director would say, you still have your thinking faces on. You have to keep doing these routines until it's just like muscle memory and you're not thinking anymore. And there are many things that we've struggled and cried through and toiled through, and then they become muscle memory and we're not thinking about those things anymore. And then if we're all like most people, we just add more to it. Let's learn some more things, or let's add another kid, or let's do another activity or whatever. So
yeah.
I know that didn't have anything to do with money or budgeting, but
no, I love that. I think especially like moms, no matter what, need to hear that. Because I mean, how often do you see posts where they're like, I'm failing as a mom. I suck at being a mom today. Like my kids, they ate cereal. Like, oh my gosh, my kids did this. Oh my gosh, the dog, they licked its butt. Like all the things. And I feel like, and it's like, I feel like having all of you on here be like, no, it's fine. You guys are fine. Like,
yeah,
you have another kid, go for it. Like, because I honestly think that people look at you guys as the superheroes. So if they can hear you say you struggled with one kid, and now you have all of these kids, like, oh, okay, I'm not that terrible of a mom, is what they might be thinking. So I like that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you think that.
Yeah.
I do. I love that you see it that way. And, I really wish that a lot more people did. And I'm a really positive person, and I see the best sides of all situations. But society does not. I think they look at us like, first, why would we? Then they think, either we're not educated, so we're just having babies, or they think that a lot of times people think that you're on public assistance, or like that's you keep having kids to stay on that. I mean, there's a lot of hurtful things that I think people say about large families. And you get very inappropriate questions like, do you know how those are made?
And you say, yes, having fun. Don't you have fun anymore?
Yes. Yes. And the question of, what does your husband do? I don't think I've ever walked up to a stranger in the store and said, oh my gosh, that's a very nice purse. What does your husband do to buy that for you? I've never said that. And so I don't think society understands it is the problem. I think that they think that it's too much.
Well, I think this would be a perfect segue. Jocelyn, I want you to answer or start to answer this one, since we're going to kind of skip over a little bit, because I know you're really passionate about this, is how do you prioritize having time with your husband? Because you guys are really, really good at this. And I know that you've had a lot of backlash with some of that as well. So how do you prioritize? And, with Nicole, we're going to go dating, or you can talk about stuff from the past, like whatever you guys do, because to me, this is fascinating. Like, I want to hear all the things.
Me too.
Well, I don't know how I've gotten quite the reputation, but that kind of seems to be what everybody says. I don't know if it's the fact that we have 7 kids, but, or what, but, for us to prioritize it, it's taken a lot of work. But first and foremost, and this is something that I think you say too, Meg, is you have to be good friends. Like your spouse, whoever you're dating, if you have a future with them, like you have to be like this. They have to be your person.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that our relationship is perfect, because we have ups and downs, and some people may say ins and outs, but we really work on it. We try to date at least once a week.
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot of backlash on that, because people are just like, how do you even manage that? And I'm like, I love him, so I want to make sure that I'm dating him.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to take turns planning that date. Sometimes we just grab a bite to eat. Sometimes we pack a picnic or something and go do something a little bit more fun. There have been times when we didn't really have anybody to watch the kids. And as your kids get older, it becomes a little bit nicer, because they can help kind of keep an eye on them. But we live out in the country, and we went across the street, and we took like his shotgun and we just did some practice shooting. And it was like 25 minutes. So it wasn't much time, but it was just him showing me how the ropes of how to use the shotgun. So it was kind of, just a fun thing. But we've also done things where like impromptu, he was like, hey, let's go on a date. And I think I told you about this, Meg. And I was like, okay, where are we going? And he was like, wear tennis shoes. And I'm not a tennis shoe wearer at all. I am like pointed toes, pretty cute shoes, flip flops. So I just put on like my knockoff Converse shoes, and we went to not French, like that was our trip for our anniversary.
Turkey Run, didn't you?
Turkey Run. We went to Turkey Run, and I was like, but we had a really good time, and we didn't do a whole lot. We didn't have a ton of time. But we did go on a trail. We just really enjoyed that. So, I mean, like we really we've gone to the same Asian restaurant Thai restaurant that, they know who we are now because we go like once a month. But like in our own home, like a lot of times we try to either take time on, like if we can't get out, then we try to take time on Saturday mornings, and the kids just play. And we just sit and we talk about what's going on in life, and just talk and spend time together. And we also, a lot of times he will call on his way home, and we live outside of Indy. So he has about like a 35-minute drive, depending on traffic. And we'll just talk the whole way he comes home, which sometimes is a little bit crazy because the kids are in the background. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't do this anymore. Like I can't listen, and I can't hear the kids, and it's hectic. But at the same time, I know that like that will help him come down from his day. It'll help me tell him about the stuff that has happened with the kids. And so when he gets home, it's like, okay, I'm like, both of us have kind of had like a de-stressing moment. And so that really helps. Sometimes I'll go and meet him for lunch, and go out to lunch with him. I don't know. It's like we just really try to maintain being friends. And like we say a lot of the times, like we'll talk to other people, and they have no idea what's going on with their spouse and what they're feeling and how life is. And there's a place in my heart that gets really sad for those relationships, because that's like your foundation of a family. And when that foundation starts to crack and crumble, so does a lot of other things, And so I always just say you need to have a good foundation. And from there you can grow. So I don't know if I answered that well enough.
No, I think it's perfect. You're basically saying you have to find the time and make it a priority. Like that's what you were saying. And I knew that was around about what you were going to say, because you guys you still date each other. You still are best friends. You always talk about how much you're still in love with him and he's your everything. So I love hearing people see someone who's a mother of 7 kids say that. Like that's to me so important. Jessica, what about you?
Just realistically, some of the stuff that we went through last year, more specifically me, it was one of the toughest years of my life. COVID aside, that just totally aside, it was one of the toughest years of my life. And without my husband, I don't know where I would be. He was my rock. And there were times when things were so bad that I was just like, I can't face the world. And I can be honest, I was really, it wasn't, and everybody's like, oh, well, you had postpartum, you just had a baby. And I was like, well, you could say that, but I know the difference between the postpartum and what was happening. And this little guy's like not gonna go to sleep.
He's like, this is my time to shine, guys.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I don't know. There've been a lot of things that people have said over the years, like as far as like dating, that's really important. But then like there's little things that we don't even think about doing, like when we go shopping, a lot of times if we're together, because most of the time I do most of the grocery shopping, but if we have a lot of errands to run, we'll like divide and conquer, whether that means we're in the same store and we like each get a list and go divide and conquer, or he goes to one store and I go to another store, and, you know, we just work it out to who drops the other one off and who's going to, you know, who has less to get or whatever. And that's something that neither one of us ever thought about. And we were talking to some gals from our church, and they were like, wow, that's like really good communication and really good working together on that. We would spend 20 minutes arguing about who was going to drop who off. And I'm like, oh, what? You don't do that? And I just think it's valuing each other's time, valuing our time. So I don't know. Like, I'm always like, I think maybe we are harder on ourselves than what anybody else would be. With that said, the first time that ever in our relationship that anybody had ever told us that we were good together was last year. And
that was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, there have been just so many things that I mean, I think from the beginning we felt like we had to almost fight for what we wanted, and we wanted to be together. And so we've made it work.
I love that. Jessica, what about you? How do you guys prioritize that?
Yeah, well, I can completely relate with Jocelyn and 2020 being just, and COVID aside too. I mean, it was just 2020 was one of the hardest years of my life. And actually the last 6 years, 10 to 6 years have been the hardest for me personally, and just the most concentrated of life changes. And what a blessing that in 2019, my husband and I finally got our acts together. Like, we just had our 23rd wedding anniversary in February. And, 21 years in, and he wasn't my best friend. He wanted to be my best friend, but he wasn't my best friend. We had just fast and furious. I mean, I guess it could happen anyway. So, I mean, you don't have to have a fast and furious life to end up living parallel lives and just going through the motions and not even realizing that you're doing it. Because I remember when I was in high school, and I remember one of my friend's parents, they went out once a month. Like, every month they went out. She's like, you got to do this when you get married. Like, it will be everything for your marriage. And like, it stuck with me. And my husband and I even talked about those things.
Did Jessica go too?
No, she's on here.
Okay.
And like, I knew we need to date and we need to keep each other first. And I think a lot of years went by for us. We didn't even realize we weren't putting each other first. And especially when we were having all the kids. And like, I remember there'd be times we were sitting on the couch and we're like, we don't want to go out. We don't want to go anywhere. We're happy here. And we were, but we didn't realize what we were neglecting until it was really neglected. And I'm so thankful for, I just want to encourage you guys, no matter where you are in your marriage, it's just it's like the meal planning. It's like life. It's like all the kids, like it's a journey, and it's dynamic, and you're going to learn so much by failing. Embrace failure and failing forward. And be okay with that and get comfortable with it, and how you're going to grow through that. And so, here we are 21 years in, and we go to this marriage seminar. It's the funniest thing. It was Gary Chapman. You guys have probably heard of Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages. Okay. So like, we did that book when we first got married. So it's not necessarily a book. It can be timing, it's your attitude, where you are in your relationship and things like that. But it aligned for us. In 2019, we went to a Gary Chapman marriage seminar, and we read the book again, and it took us months. Like, we read as many mornings as we could. So we probably averaged 3 mornings a week, reading the book together and going through it together. And it was, you know, if you're going to work on something and put your marriage first or try to work out marital relationships, you're just be prepared for all the yuck to come to the surface. And it's good. You want it to, but it was like 21 years of it. And it was like month after month, we're reading this book, we're working through, we're like, oh my goodness. Like I had built so many walls and so many things I didn't trust, things, you know, we just both had to really, really dig in and do it and work through together. And so all that to say, like our marriage, he is my best friend. He is my best friend. And it took a long time for us to get to that place. And so being purposeful and making your spouse a priority, and it's going to look different for everybody. Mm-hmm. Some people might, you know, want to go out to eat once a week, or I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like it can look different, but as long as you have put each other first, it's cliche. I heard it all my life. And in my marriage, I read all the books, I tried things. Putting your marriage first makes everything better. And I had to put it last. Like I liked my kids more for a long, long time, poured into them, put everything into them. And I learned, and I have like 2 batches of kids. I've got 3 older kids and 3 younger kids. It is so fun to learn, to hear my older kids give me the feedback, give me the crap, and be like, you know, and we all talk. We're very open, even through those years, even when Bob and I weren't. Like I did have that with the kids, and like we're open, transparent. We've been open with, you know, when we were struggling in our marriage, when we're going through things. Like I don't like to pretend I'm somebody I'm not. I just went all over the place, guys. But as like I have notes over here. Forget about them.
No, but I love that. I think that is something that, I mean, this is something that we preach. Love languages are everything. Nicole, didn't I just ask you about what yours was? And
yes.
The other day.
Yes.
And it's not even, I think people need to know love languages. So for those people that don't know what love languages are, I'm telling you, go get the book. My mom bought me the book years ago. I thought it was really stupid at first. And then I like dove in and was like, what? It was like 10 years ago. But so there's 5 different languages. Basically think about like you trying to speak to your partner and you both are speaking different languages. So he's speaking Spanish, I'm speaking English, and you're trying to come together in the middle. We don't always speak the same languages, especially in love. So there's acts of service, there's physical touch, there's gifts, words of affirmation, and quality time. And we're a mix of all of them, but you're going to rank in different layers. Something I suggest you do if you've never done this before is, of course, you can take the test to see what your individual ones are. But if you're new or dating or been with your partner for however long, answer the questions out loud to each other, because you think you know what your spouse is going to say, but their answer is going to surprise you. Like when you actually hear them say, no, like I really would prefer that my car was washed. And you're like, I thought you wanted to hold my hand. Like that's how they love. Let them love how they love and don't force them to love any differently. And when you start doing those things and you're on the same page, you're not forcing it. It just naturally happens. It's a beautiful thing. So I had to get that out there. Go Gary Chapman.
Yes.
Okay, so Nicole, I want to hear from you from the dating aspect.
Wow. So from the dating side of it, I mean, you know, my last relationship was almost 2 years. My divorce started 3, and then my last relationship lasted out 2. And I tend to, I'm not so much a great dater where I just go, oh, you're my person, and then they're my person. And that you can't do that. I mean, we had separate lives, and just because we both have kids, and you can't be like, you're my person and now you're their person. So, you know, it's a little tricky. The number one thing I can say is I was the martyr of moms in the sense of, I thought if I leave my kids, I'm traumatizing them. If I go out with my friends, I'm traumatizing them. They're staying at home crying for me all the time. I just know it. So for 90% of my children's lives, I was there from the moment they woke up until the moment they went to bed, every day, their whole lives. And when I started to go through the divorce process, I had to go back to work, and I threw myself into work. I threw myself into community work, and I was so liberated to be out in the world because I had done that for so long, and I felt resentful, and I felt neglected. And so I kind of, instead of working on myself all those years and taking those moments, I built up this, because in my marriage, I did most everything by myself. So there was just a lot of resentment there. And so when I got fresh air and I got adults to have conversations with, I was like, mommy's on the road. Mommy's a working mom. And I was gone. And it was so hard for them. And it was like I detached from them. And I had to take time and say, obviously that's not the goal. I baby wear, I co-sleep, I nurse long term. My kids were with me from the moment they were out of me to the moment they could walk and talk. And then I'm still on them every second of the day. And it taught me that you have to breathe. You have to take time. You have to make yourself happy, because resentment will. I mean, you could be the best mom. This is what's the only thing you've ever wanted to do in your whole life, and you still need you. And I did not know that until about 4 years ago. And if I go to the gym, I come back, I'm better. If I do yoga, I'm better. If I meditate, I'm better. And then my kids get the better version of me. And so I make that time by, my little ones are usually in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock. So I stay up for an hour or 2 or 5. And I do me time. And my biggest goal this year is to do me time in a more compact zone, because I do me time sometimes into the morning and then get up really early in the morning. And I just keep doing that until I'm exhausted. But I'm smiling and exhausted. So it's really, it's realizing that there's no martyrhood in motherhood. You can be a great mom. You can be there every day, and you can still show up for yourself. And you have to. You have to. It's necessity. And that's my biggest advice is, whatever you're doing, is take that time to yourself and read a book for 30 minutes. Sit in your car and listen to some songs. Take whatever time you need, even if it's 5 or 10, 15 minutes a day, and devote it. And you'll soon get more comfortable with the amount of time you're willing to spend on yourself once you start practicing that.
I love that. That's like the perfect segue into like the final bits of like prioritizing taking care of yourself. Nicole, you kind of hit it on the head already. But for Jocelyn and Jessica, and then we'll kind of wrap things up, and you guys can give like last little motherhood tips and tricks or final sayings or whatever for Mother's Day week. Jocelyn, what do you do for like the self-care aspect, or just making sure that you're good?
So this is an area that I am learning how to take care of my heart. So like over the last year, I've learned that I'm about like self-care being like, taking your vitamins, getting your shower, like you deserve that. But like, what is fueling your heart and your mind and your body? And so this is an area that I have neglected. It's something that, I'll be honest, I see a therapist kind of regularly. And that's normally one of her first questions. What have you done to fuel your soul that's only for you? So I've bought a couple of books. I've ventured into some, like getting back into crafting because I love to craft. And just figuring out some things that my heart and soul need and like going for it. And really that's kind of been my biggest thing is like, I just need to go and do it. Don't be held back anymore by everything that could tell you no. And really like that has been a really good thing. Like, last year for the first time ever, like we took a trip, Jeff and I took a trip, and we went back to where we had our honeymoon, which was just in French Lick, Indiana. But there were so many things that he planned because he knew that that's what I needed, and I wasn't willing to do it on my own. And there's just been a lot of little things like that where he's like, he's had to look at me so many times and say, if you don't take care of your heart, I can't do that for you. And so I've been trying to read more. I'm terrible. I love to read, but I'm terrible at like staying focused and reading. Just because something is always going to like, ooh, squirrel. But so there's been several different things that I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to try to figure out where and what I want to do here. And so, yeah, I've realized that it doesn't take me that long to get like my crafting stuff out and do a little bit of scrapbooking, which is something that I love. I actually used to have a scrapbook business. So, yeah, but I hadn't scrapbooked in forever and ever and ever. And, when I did, it was like, so I was like, oh, wow, that's what that feels like. And my kids are starting to venture out. So if it gets loud, I'm sorry. But tonight is our late night with dance. So they don't always get to bed early on Monday night. But then like Nicole said, sometimes I go and I get a Starbucks, whatever that may be, whether it's hot or cold. I'm kind of a plain Jane when it comes to Starbucks, but and listening to music and just sitting there with nothing else going on, and like people are like, "That's really all you do?"
You're like, yes.
And I'm like, sometimes that's all it takes, just chilling out, listening to music, and having a drink that I like. So that's been something new to try to figure out, but I feel like I'm doing better about it.
I think one thing that you like, we don't have to dive in deep into this, but something that you were really good about this past year was putting boundaries up, and boundaries are self-care. You put boundaries around how much you were on social media in some ways. You put boundaries on like how you were showing up for some people, where when you're going through something yourself, it's hard to then give the extra 1,000% to other people. And so putting that boundary and saying, you know what, like, I don't know how much I can give right now. I'm kind of like maxed out, I think is honestly a really important thing to vocalize sometimes too, as a form of self-care. Okay, Jessica, you go, and then we're going to wrap up because I said that was going to be good with everybody's time, but I want to talk to everybody forever.
I know, like all of the questions you sent, I'm like, we could do an hour on each. Like,
I know, I was already thinking, I'm like, I could have all of you on, like, dive in way deeper.
Let's do, yeah. Well, we have to make ourselves a priority, and that sounds cliche again, you know, but it's just like our husbands. And you're going to have to learn yourself and figure that out. But it's like, if you can change in your mind every day, I'm a priority. My husband's a priority. I'm a priority. And you're going to, you know, learn yourself and figure out what that's going to look like for you. It changes everything. I mean, guys, learning the hard way is beautiful, and you're going to do that. But oh my gosh, it fuels everything. You feed your soul and you pour into your spouse. But I mean, again, like, I had to put myself on the back burner for so many real years before I even, and my spouse, before I even realized I was doing it. So go easy on yourself as you're in it.
Right.
You know? Right? Like, I didn't even realize what I was doing. It took me into my 40s to be able to like look back and be like, whoa, on like everything. So, okay. So like for me, self-care can be $4.99 Sam's Club chicken roasters and throwaway bowls and forks and spoons. That can be self-care, guys.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
that, and it sounds like, listening to all of us, we've done all the crunchy mama stuff. Our pendulums do these things, at least mine. Like I've said, like, I feel like Tarzan. I'm like, oh, I can't believe this. We're crunchy, everything. No, we're not even buying toilet paper anymore. Like, we're going to get our wash rags. And like I'm serious. And like,
during COVID.
Like, oh my God. Like everything homemade and fermented and all of these things, which aren't bad in and of themselves, but like I actually realized that those things were stressing me out. I love those things. I love healthy food. We're health food store owners. We're in health and wellness. But I like let go. Like it was so crazy with the first few kids. And again, the 2 batches, it's hilarious how mom is with the last 3 versus the first 3.
Yes. My kids talk about it all the time.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun topic.
How you change.
Yes. And like my son was just saying that today. He's like, Shoshana, you're like he's like, he's my 14-year-old and Shoshana's the 8-year-old. And he's like, you've been lenient, over the years more, with each kid. And like, she is like, she never gets in trouble and she gets to do everything. And then he's like, but we really get to do things that are, that the big kids didn't get to do. And so that's cool. Like we're all benefiting from this.
Right.
But that is, self-care. One of my favorite tips is get a $4.99. Now, let me tell you, I would have never not had organic meat. Like there was a time where it was organic, local, everything. And I love it. And I know what's good for my body.
Right.
And I know, but then I also know sometimes what is good for my soul is a $4.99 roaster and plastic plates and throw it away and chill out, because stress is huge. Like it's
right.
huge.
And the things like, I think people just don't see all the things that are just small things. And when you have a lot of kids, I think that we have to look at that all the time. Like, oh, that's tiny, it's not worth it. Oh, that's tiny, it's not worth it. And we spend so much time saying that's tiny, it's not worth it, that, it makes where other people look at it like it's chaos, we're like, oh, it's actually a really good 9. Like this is a really good situation. You just don't know. And, I think that that's really important is stay focused. I love that. I love that we can hear them.
I do.
It's exactly what our life is, and I love it.
Okay, so are there any final words, anything you want to leave everybody off with? I love everything that you guys have shared. It makes me like just so excited.
Yeah, it went by so fast. I cannot believe it is 10:10.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The only thing that I would say is that in everything, and I think you've heard this from all of us, there are seasons. And sometimes that season might be 2 weeks, and sometimes that season might be 10 years.
Yeah.
But there are seasons for everything. And I don't want to act like we're always like in survival mode. And sometimes we just feel like we're always in survival mode. But I think that's one of the biggest things that like leading up to this, like Jeff and I were talking about, because there have been times when I am like, okay, I don't even have a meal plan, but I know that these are the things that we like. If I have meat and veggies and, cheese and whatever, like if I have the basics that we eat all the time, then I'm good. So there are times when I'm like, yeah, like we're actually missing an ingredient for that. Oops. But like you just have this ebb and flow. And I think I kind of with big families, like, and I think it works with small families too, but supporting big families has kind of been one of my things, is that like you just have to embrace the season that you're in. So if you have one kid, embrace your season. If you're in the season of having kids, embrace the season. If you're moving out of the season of having kids and into the season of having older kids, embrace where you're at. And it goes along with the like bloom where you're planted. Because if you choose that you are going to be happy in the season that you're in, everyone around you is going to benefit. And I'm
Mhm.
like, that's probably one of the number one lessons that I've learned in the last year is, I mean, like, I always tried to be like, this is just where we're at. So that's what's going on. And we're just going to be flexible with it. But,
Right.
you know, there are
Right.
times when like things are great and there are times when things aren't so great. And that can be relationally, financially, whether it's a relational with your kids being great or versus your spouse, because there are times relationships with your kids can be stressed. And I mean, like, there's just ebb and flow to everything, seasons.
Yes. And then everybody's their own little personality,
Oh,
and
yes.
everybody's different. And then we're all like, I heard this metaphor, like we all go through different phases in our life where we're like a butterfly, right? We're a worm and a caterpillar, and we're in our cocoon, and then we're all like in the cocoon, like decomposing stage, like at the same time sometimes. Like, wait, we all can't be falling apart at the same time. Yeah, well, you are. And
You are.
you
Right.
are. And that encouragement was, it's just the seasons, and there's so much. Okay, guys, I have to give one more tip though. The $4.99 Sam's Club chickens, it's okay. And then I pay, so my kids are older, like, and before my daughter got married, she left when she was 19. She left. Oh my gosh, I gotta check myself. She got married when she was 19. She was like my right arm. And so from 16 to almost 19, she was my meal planner. She did everything the way I do it. Bob, my husband, does not. But she did everything. Like, she was just like me, and she did the meals and she did the shopping and things like that. Cause at that point we had brought our business home. So, and now I pay my 14-year-old to make breakfast and lunch for his siblings. So it's $1.50 a meal, guys. It's a whole $3 a day.
That's an amazing idea. That's a good idea.
That is really good.
I want to have like tips and tricks, like with the
And
kids.
you pay. I just tell them to do it.
Yeah.
Like well, there's a whole like method to my madness. Why, we were talking about this chores and money and what you really should get paid for or not, and why, and how different families do it differently. But that is self-care right there.
Yes.
Yes.
And my husband cooks dinner. So most dinners. And he eats the leftovers for breakfast and lunch. That, if we want to talk about what we do with leftovers.
No,
And those Sam's Club chicken, guys, I buy those.
I literally just did it 2 days ago. Grabbed some sides and some chickens and some hummus and some chip crackers, and that was dinner.
You can shred them out. I have my 18-year-old do it. I'll buy 3 of them. He'll shred them all out, and we put them in freezer bags.
Yeah.
And you can make that, really one chicken go a long way when you mix it with rice and beans. And you can have a lot more dates with your husbands if you if you decide to like eat beans and rice for a month or two, however you want to do it. If you want to we have prioritized ourselves that way.
It's so true. It's so true. That's stuff that we think about. Like, we have stuff coming up and we're like, and it's not having that mentality where it's like a poor mentality. It's like, we are doing this. It's going to taste amazing, but we get to do this. It's just like shifting.
Yep. Yeah. Like, we will, that's budgeting is so empowering people. That's another thing to talk about too. Like, we tell your money where to go. And I absolutely love to do that. And I don't mind if I'm deciding to eat beans and rice so that my husband and I can go out overnight at a hotel. Heck yeah, we're eating beans and rice. Everybody's going to know it. And I love for them to know it.
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
And it can be something fun for the kids too. Like, hey, we're going on a vacation. Like, we had friends come over last month, and we painted the inside of our house, and we have lived in this house for 17 years in the same furniture for 17 years. It's like gag a maggot. And like, the kids actually chose to like get a new couch over like doing something fun because they were like done with the furniture too. Sorry.
So.
Oh my gosh. It's fun. It's fun, guys.
But I think it's
fun, scary, hard, horrible, horrific, wonderful.
I love it. I don't know if anyone else, Nicole, do you have any final words?
I mean, I think that they talked about the most important thing is that as moms, you're going to go through all kinds of things that you think you're not going to, or you shouldn't have to. And you got to go with it. You do. There's none of us, there's so many people that look the part and they look amazing and everything looks great. And their kid is eating crackers off their van floor. I promise you. And it is what it is. And so as moms, it's just really important that we all stick together. And, the village mentality is really important to me. My friends' kids are my kids. My neighbors' kids are my kids. And it's just kind of paying attention that we're all in this together. We're all facing the same hurdles. 6 kids, 2 kids, 1 kid, no kid. We're all in this. And so don't be hard on yourself. Don't think that one of us has it better or that we know more. We really don't. We go with every experience that happens and we deal with it to the best of our abilities. And, Jocelyn, you had said something though about you don't want it to look like we're a chaotic mess. And I want to make sure that we didn't send that message either, because it takes a lot of structure, even for me that's saying it's chaos and I've got this stuff going on, I still have a level of structure and control because you have to. And, like that 6 kids and different personalities, they have to have some level of knowing what's coming next. And so large families, I do think that they've got a little bit of special skills going on. And even when it looks chaotic, we have a madness to that and it works really well for us. And so I definitely don't want it to think like we don't have control and it's crazy, because it's not always like that. It's learning to go with the flow.
Yeah, all of you guys are so go with the flow and I love it. Like you have the control, but like it's control and flow. It's not best of both worlds.
Yes.
Well, thank you, mamas.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this will be a great happy Mother's Day week to all of you and to everybody listening. And hopefully this gave some soothing balm to someone's heart that felt like they're being a terrible mom, or that they don't measure up, or the new to be moms, or whoever's out there just experiencing moms. Cherish them, look up to them, celebrate them, and also honor where you're at in your season, like Jocelyn said. So, all right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. We need to get together in person.
I know.
Yeah. Lunch soon.
We'll go ahead and sign off. I'll keep you guys on here for just a second.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Okay.
Bye.